All right, everybody, welcome to the Gildre Spotlight podcast. Today, it's actually our first revisit of a guest, and Luke Aschenbrand was actually our second Spotlight episode that we've ever interviewed. It was about a year and a half ago, back in September of 2023. Now, a year and a half later, Luke just launched his startup called Emblem. But Luke, how have you been and what you been up to the past year and a half?
Been good, man. A lot of learning. I will say that this journey does make you really spiritual, and it teaches you a lot along the way. I tried bodybuilding on a personal note. Sadly had a hamstring injury that stopped me 8 weeks before the show, but I tried bodybuilding, tried to play as much golf as I could when I wasn't working, and I just spent a lot of time learning.
So, to go back spiritually, what kind of spiritual growth or spiritual endeavors have you been seeking?
I've spent a lot of time focused on understanding where I'm at in this journey, and I've gotten a much deeper understanding of how the chakras work, meaning this is independent of a religion, like your crown or where you behind your mind works, your third eye where a lot of truth comes from, your throat where you're speaking your truth from, heart so you can love all, your solar plexus so you can act according to your will, sacral where you create, and then your root where you truly are grounded. And you in the process of building a company kind of just have to continue to execute and operate. So many people forget that they are humans. So I've spent a lot of time just learning about how each of these exist and where I'm at in the process of doing all day. And to be honest, most of my life is working. So just small check-ins, making sure that I'm good in the process of doing what I can to grow a business. And it reinforces a lot of things that you've learned from before.
I love that. And just what are kind of those practices that you do to get your chakras kind of aligned and those energies kind of, making you feel like optimal? What are the specific practices?
I have a coach actually who taught me one small little trick called Qigong, which is a practice where essentially you open yourself up to the universe and pull energy from it. And it's an old Eastern philosophy of just, you sit and you meditate while you're holding like a globe. And when you hold the globe, you can kind of feel like the weight of your own spirit existing and the weight of the world around you. And it makes you cry sometimes if you're in it too long. Like the first time I tried it, it was a 4-minute long endeavor. And I was like fully in tears just holding a globe. And you wouldn't think something so simple would be so strenuous, but it brings a lot of teachings. And that's just one practice I've started to incorporate on a more consistent basis. And I mean, similar to last time, my meditation practices haven't changed. Just kind of learn how energy flows consistently as you do it more and more.
And, being a startup founder, entrepreneur, why do you think it's so important to be aligned with your 7 chakras and, your kind of spiritual aspect in life should align with your professional aspects in life? Like, why is that so important, do you think?
It's a good question. When you are a founder, your entire day and night is doing. All you do is do. So a lot of no's come, and then it's your job to keep building. No's are directional, in my opinion. And if you don't know where you're at in the process, it jades you. So your job is just to stay even keeled in between. No day is a bad day. No day is too good. You enjoy the highs when you get them. And then when it's low, you realize where you're at in between. So it just keeps you even keeled in the process of doing hard things.
And have you, I guess, we've both been around thousands of entrepreneurs and founders. Can you tell a distinct difference of founders that, are consistently working on themselves? Maybe they have like an executive coach or a life coach, and can tell the difference between founders that are, we've seen it, fairly often, that are, unorganized, that are, fairly manic. And they say, a big attribute or a big feature of being an entrepreneur is you have to have that manic heart in your ethos or in your environment and in your brain. Do you see a distinct difference between those two types of people? And as far as productivity wise, do you think that being more aligned with your spiritual self, you can get a lot more done, or having kind of that manic sense of entrepreneurship, you can still get a lot done?
Well, saying manic doesn't imply good things.
I guess that's
Let's
true.
make that clear.
Right.
Like being manic is a state of mind that's mania. It's madness. There's a point of being a manifester. I would call manifesting a necessary element of leading a company because you are
Hmm.
willing something that never existed before into reality. But I wouldn't say manic is the right word. But we have seen manic founders. I will say that. Like you and I personally have seen a lot of manic and actually manic founders that are slightly delusional without any grounding in reality. It's like your job to be practical in the process of making something that seems so far away a reality. And I would say that it's more manifestation than mania if you're looking for great founders. Like there has to be a little bit of crazy. Like, yes, like if you're trying to do something that's really hard and you don't believe it's going to work, then why would you do it? Like I'm working on really hard problems. If I didn't believe it was possible, then I wouldn't be spending my entire life doing it 6 to 7 days a week for a year and a half on end. I wouldn't have done that. But I wouldn't call it mania. I would call it manifesting. And then you staying centered in that process. Yeah, it's very clear where energy comes from when you talk to a founder. And those who are just sporadic and too all over the place without thinking about how to make it a reality definitely come off the wrong way. It's just the truth.
And with great leaders, and I mean, I can use an example. I know this is kind of like an outlier, but for example, someone like Elon Musk, who's had a very successful career, he's built amazing companies, but he has a little piece of, that I don't want to say like manic because it's a negative connotation, but he has that little quirk to him that he's built highly successful companies, but also he said some things, that like, we're going to have full self-driving cars by 2025. We're going to have X, Y, and Z and predicting all these big things, and we're going to accomplish that. How do you think he's been able to balance like that one example, like his spiritual center with, saying things that are, you know, almost unrealistic in a sense, if that makes sense?
Sure. Elon Musk spends 18 to 20 hours a day across many businesses finding and solving the biggest pain point, whether it be engineering, whether it be the business side of things, whether it be people. That's what Elon does, 18 to 20 hours a day. And he is a much more seasoned veteran than a 25-year-old Luke Aschenbrand. But I bet you he knows where he is in the process of doing everything because that's all he does is do. It doesn't have to be a conscious effort for some people. In my case, I work better when it's a conscious effort. But for some people, they're in pure alignment and they just go. But in terms of practically making things that seem delusional to many a reality, Elon Musk is doing it every day and he talks to people all the time and he has systems around him so he can just understand where things will actually go. And when there is a constraint, his entire job is just solving pain points in each of the businesses that he runs. So when you have a team that does everything else and you find the biggest problem within a team consistently for 18 to 20 hours a day every day, of course, those things that seem grandeur are not grandeur and become true because you're actually following the logic of how you're going to get to something that seems so delusional to the outside world. It's not really delusional. It's just a plan that he sticks to and solves the constraints within bigger businesses.
And going back to Emblem, what sparked you to, or what ignited your journey to start Emblem, and what exactly is the product?
Sure. I was working on Emblem when we were on the last podcast. I kept it really quiet for a long time. And as you know, we had to build a lot of data rooms out at New Chip. And before that, I interned at a private equity fund. So I actually got to see in 2021, before GPT-3 even came out, that my job could have been done by a computer. I wish I had a solution that could help build out the investment committee decks and read through large data sets like customer spreadsheets, legal documents, confidential information memorandums, and a bunch of technical, like really big documents that just, if you use a good framework of retrieval augmented generation or knowledge augmented generation, can automate that work. And I saw this a long time ago, but I still, to this day, have not seen what we're building next, which I'm not going to say now, but I will say when it comes out, it's going to change the nature of capital markets. All I can say is that I'm super excited to keep building. Like I knew this was a possibility a long time ago, and I still hadn't seen anybody build exactly what the market needed. And now we're building it on my team. And I mean, the receptivity to when we came out of stealth has been pretty insane. I'm not going to lie. I came off of a sales call right before jumping on the podcast, and I've had a lot of them. And fortunately, you're in the right direction when everybody asks for the thing that you're building next. And the thing that you built now was definitely the precursor to get there. And a lot of people want to use what you have now as a minimally acceptable version. So a lot of my ideas are based on conversations and practical truth about what can be done. And it's just my job to make it a reality. And when people tell me exactly what I thought was right hundreds of times, it's just your job to execute. So I'm just doing what I know is right and what is necessary to help people save a lot of time.
That's amazing. It seems like you've obviously encountered that unmet need, consistently through work, and you came up with a solution. Why do you think no one else kind of came up with a similar solution? You know, considering that people have been kind of players in that game, and then AI's been coming out. Why do you think you're kind of the first to market with this particular solution?
On the diligence end, like us being able to read a lot of files, and we're not the first. In terms of what we're building next, we will be the first. And the reason why nobody thought of packaging it this way is because it's a hard problem to solve. Like simply, it's a hard problem to solve. And we've just taken a lot of time to think about the best way to go about it and then add value from bottom up and top down across a financial institution. And we've just taken the necessary precautions to make sure that it works smooth, looks smooth, and is smooth from start to finish. That's why it's not out yet, but it's about to be. And I won't tell you what it is today, but after this call, I'll tell you what it is because it's going to be really fun.
That sounds good. I'm super excited. Just as far as Emblem, like the current product that's out and that's released that you're building up and kind of obviously you're going to work for that next product. In layman's terms, just for those that aren't, that into the venture capital game or the startup game, what is kind of like your MVP or what's like the main problem that you're solving?
Reading thousands of files and creating content, organizing things for teams in an automated fashion, like the final deck, like the founders send pitch decks to venture capital firms or to possible ideal client profiles internally for people who buy companies. It's based on a template. It's fully repeatable. We've gotten 70% of the way there, and it gets used pretty much every day by our current paying customers. And when you have like multi-tab 1,000+ row Excels and you have a whole 30 to 35 years of legal documents and credit agreements and just really hard to get through financial and documents, and you just want to look for it in one shot and then compare it to things you find on the web and compare it to things you find on the stock market just to get a general comparison of what's good, a lot of hard work can be done by a computer. And we built one that's super sticky and that our customers love using because our usage rates are really, really, really high now.
Something that, could this be applicable to, medical records and, something that's different than like, venture capital, startup VC? Like, could this be applied to like other industries? Because it sounds like almost it's organizing data and it's making it way easier to find specific financial information. And that could be medical records. That could be a bunch of different things. So could this be applied to other industries?
Certainly, but I have two sayings that, well, I'll share now. One's a 6-line, and 6-word, one is a 7-word saying. The first one is the riches are in the niches. That's the first one. So I built this for private equity firms. Venture capital firms have similar workflows, just less data, more content that needs to be generated. So the value is about the same, just different data sets. And then the second one is solve rich people problems. They pay better.
I love those.
So I'm not going to sell it to
niches and solve what?
Rich
So
people
solve problems for rich people, basically, if they pay better.
Yeah, solve rich people problems. They pay better. Simply, if you tailor this to the right person and you understand their problems and you only sell it to them and you have proof, why would they not? That's simple. It's simple. Like I have another framework in terms of explaining hard problems. It's called the KISS framework. You ready for it?
Yeah, I know that framework.
Yeah, keep it simple, stupid. Yep. Yeah. So a lot of things that they do could be done by a computer. I made sure a computer could do them well.
And, so your initial focus is going to be in private equity firms. Obviously you don't want to tell the product, but what's kind of your ultimate end goal with Emblem?
To add true north value to funds of perpetuity, not just taking care of work that can be done by a computer, but helping make better decisions for the people who value companies and move them forward. And I could very easily sell what I'm doing to an investment bank. And in fact, I have talked to many investment banks, but the sell-side data collection process and then the buy-side data aggregation process are two completely different workflows. And many founders keep going after many ICPs way too fast. Verticalized software is designed to solve one person's problem extremely well, or team's problems extremely well. And I won't expand outside something that I don't know and that my customers haven't asked for until we have over 100 of them. Doesn't make sense to. Because the systems have to be scalable and so does the product. And if it's not, then you just keep building. It's that simple.
And so as far as, step one, starting Emblem. And I do remember as well, did you have some, and can I bring it up? Like you had Scry, you remember Scry? So was that kind of the first version one of Emblem, the Scry?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
We called it Scry AI because a scry is a crystal ball that psychics use to predict the future. And our goal was to predict the future of finance with my original founding team. But people thought it was scary AI. And I don't want to build a company that's scary. I want to build a company that can make its mark. So I built Emblem to make its mark on finance, more specifically in private equity and venture capital. But down the road, and even now, actually, I have a customer that's a family office, or a pilot customer that's a family office. The whole buy-side ecosystem benefits tremendously.
And I like that rebranding, by the way. I think Emblem sounds a lot
Way
better.
better. Yeah, they do.
So to go back to kind of the, step one, what would you, for an entrepreneur that's looking to start, what would you say step one is? What's the best step one? And for you, what was your step?
Good question. When we last spoke, I was coaching entrepreneurs on how to get closer to product market fit. That was a pretty good experiment. For many founders, it was focus. Step one was focus on what problem you want to solve. If you're building a really horizontal solution, I mean, there's a whole different strategy. But now if I were to look back instead of working, I mean, I'm not going to change what I did to help founders get to product market fit because I did really good work. If it's a founder just day one, focus on problems. If your goal is to solve a problem, solve a problem. If your goal is to build something cool, build something cool. Problem is there's nothing cool that's built that matches what you want. So
Sorry, I'll take a. So actually, let's just say like the founder actually has an idea. What's the first step after they have that unmet need that they're solving? What's like the first step in execution? What would you say?
validate it. Validate it. Simple. Ask as many people as you can about if this is a problem for them. And many people build before they understand a problem set. And I've seen this especially with companies that we used to work with. They just built before validation. I went and got hundreds of points of validation before we ever had something that actually was worth coming out of stealth with. And it took a while to build something great, but great things take time. And most founders don't think about the problem at hand from their customer's shoes and their customer's journey for you to help them solve that problem, which if you're building out a sales process, you have to think about it from a customer's shoes from start to finish, and then you just map their expectation. But again, it's if you don't talk about the problem or validate the idea and you just have an idea that seems cool and then build something and then nobody likes it, like that's a sunk cost fallacy. You're putting time into something that doesn't solve a problem and it's not valuable to anybody.
Yeah, and I think it's very strategic kind of seeing you grow Emblem the past year because I know you had it in stealth. How long did it take you to validate, the MVP for Emblem?
There are many points in which I thought I could call it an MVP, but the real differentiator is somebody said, oh, I need this right now. That's when I can call it an MVP. Definitely solves a problem, definitely helps people automate a lot of their work. And we had a lot of variations that we thought could be an MVP that I took to market and got a ton of feedback on. And market just being out of my network because I have a pretty good network of investors. And nothing until about early January, I would say, was like perfect. And even then, with our out of stealth video, we didn't show that you could edit the work that was done by our platform across the team. So really, I would say like my 25th birthday, about just a few weeks ago, was when I was like really ready. And when I came out of stealth, it definitely got a lot of attention. And we have a really solid pipeline for us only being 3 weeks out of stealth, 3 weeks in a day. And my head of sales and I have just been on calls all the time.
It took about a year and a half, it sounds like, to kind of get
something great that was worth marketing.
Also, by the way, when was your birthday? 2 weeks ago.
January 20th, the day Trump got elected.
Wow, very cool. I'm 16th, so are you Capricorn, that means?
Aquarius.
Is that the first day of Aquarius?
First day of Aquarius.
Got it. Yeah, I was born, okay, so I was born
16th?
Yeah, January 16th.
You're a Capricorn?
Yep.
Cool. Do you believe in the star sign stuff?
A little bit. I think that there has, some type of, weight, understanding and knowing exactly where you're born, what positioning, all the alignments were. I think there has to be some type of weight to that just because we are made from stars, if you think about it. But that's another deeper conversation. We could definitely, well, what do you think, actually? What do you think of that?
You get a lot of indications, but don't make it your personality.
Yeah.
That simple. Like, there are a lot of truths that come when you think about how things are aligned in the stars and where you are. And if you make it your entire personality, then you're kind of missing out on the human experience that validates what you could know from the stars. But I think there are a lot of truths that come from it. Just don't make it everything that you determine your life based on.
Yeah, 100% agree. Going back to Emblem, How, so I know that, getting your MVP is one thing, but then are you consistently improving your product market fit to meet kind of the needs of, private equity firms and your clients?
Yeah. If you
And
don't listen to your customers.
what are those ways that you're consistently iterating and improving your PMF?
Well, one thing that we're going to launch very soon is a case study of exactly how much time we saved a private equity firm and
Mhm.
exactly what they used to get there and what their process looked like before and what it looks like now. We've done extensive studies with our beta clients, and it's just about time to post it. So that definitely helps indicate that you have something valuable when you can actually quantify it. Another thing that we do is when we see an issue, we talk to each of our customers at least once a week, multiple seats from that customer at least once a week. And that's how you develop something that really helps, is just knowing where the problems are with what you've built so far. And if you can't identify them, it's not being used enough. So you just have to keep asking questions. That's it. I'm a big believer that the answers come from the people who believe in you. And if they're using the product to solve a problem and they have further problems, solve them. The rest of the market will reflect that if you're going after a super niche ICP.
Got it. And with Emblem, as far as like a private equity firm, is like the ROI calculation, would they save like a full-time hire per year, or what's kind of like the amount of resources they'd save by using their product than not using your product?
Well, right now, private equity firms have different people doing different things within the diligence process. So it's hard, like each role is different at a private equity fund. I can't say it replaces humans yet, but I will say that it does 70 to 95% of multiple functions. And the time saving is based on the seat. So if, for example, one thing that the partners of funds have to do is build quarterly board reports. So they have to track the performance of every company they've invested in, see if it's on alignment with expectations. And if they're not, be able to make changes. This process is a pain in the butt. Some firms have associates doing this. Some firms have partners doing this. But for the ones that have partners doing this, it takes 18 to 40 hours. We knock out 28 of those hours on a 40-hour scale. We knock out 14 of those hours on a 18-hour scale. And guess what? The time savings, you can calculate at $250 an hour. We already made an ROI on the seat with one presentation.
That's incredible. Basically, it saves 75% of the time,
Yeah.
which
And then another pain point is like if you're diving through data rooms for like 2 hours, looking between 6 different files, trying to compare metrics, or if you're looking between 7 to 10 different data rooms and you're looking for specific metrics, instead of you doing it, it should be a computer doing it. So you could just see and make a decision. Every time you build a comp table and you're looking through a bunch of different data rooms, comp table, long story short, is like a comparison table where you tell what you want to compare and we go get the data. That process takes a lot of time, but it's a situational use case. And every situation we're adding value.
just curious, did you develop this product yourself, or how did
I have a founding engineer now who takes care of anything that I can. I will say that I don't have a computer science background, but I'm a very curious learner and I've always been a quantitative thinker. So me understanding the technicals did not take much time, but I'm not technical enough to build the entire thing. I will say that I had a technical co-founder for some time and that made this super easy, but now I am the only founder.
and what did you study again at Princeton?
Philosophy.
So how do you think a philosophy degree, because it's interesting because I've interviewed Fritz Landman, he's a SEAL class pass in Mind Body. He had a history degree, which is definitely not related to technology and software. But how does kind of like a Bachelor of Arts degree kind of equate to working with technology all the time?
Good question. And it's one I get asked often. One, I only got the philosophy degree because I loved learning about how people thought, classifying thought patterns and understanding the logic behind things like ethics and high abstract concepts like metaphysics and epistemology. And I just did it because I was personally curious. Translating it into the real world, if you understand how people think and you understand where the world's moving, it's just your job to learn. So, as I said, the entire time, I've spent a ton of time learning. And learning about technicals is no different than learning about logic. And part of philosophy is logic. Code is syntax and math. Syntax being sentence structure, math behind things like Python being very structured and linear. And if you just put your mind to thinking about it and then doing it, the more you do, the better you get. So I would say realistically, if you really want to solve a problem, you will just figure it out. Like it takes at least 20 hours to learn a skill. I put in way more hours than 20 to learn technicals.
And actually, there's a lot to unwind with that because I know there's so many people that don't know how to learn I think a big skill that people maybe get in college and university is learning how to learn and how to be strategic when, discovering a new skill. What for you, what's kind of like the best method of you retaining and understanding information so quickly?
Also a good question. I'm not going to say I'm the smartest technical person, by the way. I know enough to be dangerous, but I don't know enough to build things myself. I know how to build parts of things myself, but I don't know how to build entire things myself.
Mhm.
I go high level to low level when I learn things. If I can understand the concept and then get more granular about its application, then I can understand parts of its application. But I'm not going to say that I know how to do everything, because that's why I need a team around me. I just understand it from their shoes and am practical about when things can get done. I would say in terms of learning, one thing, if I really want to learn something, I turn my phone off. I put it away. Yeah, out of sight, out of mind. Most people are on their phone because they get distracted, and there's like this initial hump where you're just mentally confused about things and you just want to give up and you can't do it because it just seems so overwhelming. It's called knowledge overload. And for me, that's like the point where things are starting to get good. Because if you just push through it a little bit longer, you can actually learn one thing. The thing about learning is the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know anything. Like, so you'll never know enough to feel confident. You'll just learn along the way. And the hardest step is the first step of just trying something new. Most people don't even give it a try. And I also happen to be one who believes that if you can give yourself a few minutes when you're stuck and then come right back to it, like, I don't know, use the restroom, wash your face, do something that's not on your phone, so you could trigger yourself back in and be like, okay, this is how I think about it now. This is how I'm going to think about it as I go through it. It's easy. And then another thing that most people don't do is stay organized. Take notes on what you learned. Don't try to get it in your head. Your mind has a lot of thoughts in the astral world. Like, just write down what you think it is and keep building on top of that. Not learn 6 different things at once. Just focus on one thing that you want to learn. And if you want to learn something else, segment it. The more you can segment, the more you can do, because it's very focused learning on a specific task. But I wouldn't say I'm the greatest learner. I would say that I just spend a lot of time to learn. Big difference. Some people are like sponges. They hear it once, they never forget it. In terms of numbers, once I see a number, I don't forget numbers. But I'm not like, I wouldn't say I'm the greatest learner, but I would say that I can learn quick. Like, I take the time to learn quick. Like, some people get it first try. I'm not a first try guy, but once I get it, I don't forget it.
It seems like the strategy behind how you learn is very good, just because I think what we learn in education in school is memorize, regurgitate information, memorize 10 different points, regurgitate it, and then you forget it the next week. But when you focus more on one thing and you get it, and then move on to the next, I think that's a way better method to learn. Have you heard of I think it's called like the Franz Kruger conundrum or something like that, where the less you know about something, you watch a documentary, it gives you like the confidence that you're an expert in that one thing, but then the more you know about it, the less confidence that you have
Yeah.
when
I've heard
explaining
of
it.
the theory, but I've never heard it classified as Franz Kruger.
Or not front. It's something like Kruger, is like the Kruger method or something like that.
I don't know. Maybe
Okay,
I
going
should.
back actually on your philosophy background, what is one piece of philosophy that has changed your life?
There's so much good philosophy out there.
Or you can give a couple.
I had a thought that I figured I should share. And this is very consistent with my thesis on AI itself. It's not just general knowledge, because general knowledge is becoming commoditized. It's applied knowledge that matters. So the more you can apply what you learn, the more valuable that knowledge is. And most people don't take the time to apply what they learn. Like, a lot of people know theory, but they don't know how to do it. I know a lot of theory, but I don't know how to do everything, because I'm not God. Like, I'm a human being who can understand how things move and work, and high level to low level, I can get it, but I don't get, you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
In terms of philosophy, where do I want to start? Well, I guess I'll say what I wrote my thesis about, because I truly believe this. Patience is a virtue if you know how to use it. Like, most people rush into things. Most people don't take the time to think out all the variables. And if you really want to take a Buddhist lens on patience, it is truly your job to make sure that things develop how they're supposed to and stay present in the midst of it. Most people, like, there's such a thing. There's a difference between patience and waiting. Just to like elaborate on my thesis a little bit, because you can impatiently wait for something. Like, for example, a train station, you're sitting there impatiently waiting to get on the train so you can get where you're supposed to. Patience is about the journey and the process of getting to a certain point. And if you utilize it while being confident in the decision, like, you have to know when to strike, you have to know when to do things, But if you're patient in that process, you're going to be able to use it as a virtue. Most people don't give things time to develop. Most people just rush, and if they don't get what they want right away, they give up. And I'm not somebody who quits. So utilizing patience has been probably my best philosophical practice.
I love that. And I think that's one thing that, I mean, just in general, with the time and the age that we're in, I mean, people's attention spans are only like 6 or 7 seconds, right? Due to TikTok and Reels and all that. And I think having that type of patience, it's really rare nowadays. So I really like that. And I think that's a really interesting thesis. And I think I'm half Japanese. I've seen it a lot in Japan. I think Japanese people are very patient, and they understand, like, getting bored is not, anything beneficial to them, but that's fantastic philosophy. Bruce Lee, Bruce Lee, right? Yeah, he studied philosophy, and he's one of the most amazing archetypes in philosophy and martial arts. Awesome, Luke. Well, I really appreciate your time today. Is there anything else that you'd like to share about what you're currently working on, about Emblem? Any words of wisdom?
There's a lot that I'm going to be vocal about very soon on social media. I will say that. This is just the beginning of me being here and now, something that people can consume on the internet. So just get ready for a lot more of this. That's one thing I will say. Get ready for a lot more content from me. Another thing I will say in terms of wisdom, I mean, I've kind of said a lot, but what note do I want to leave with somebody? Okay, I will say this. Things get hard really fast when you try to solve hard problems. Just exist. Just be. Just know where you are in the middle of it. I said this earlier. I spent a lot of time doing it. Many people get lost. Their head goes in a million places. They try to distract themselves, but the distraction always leads back to because you are distracted. So if you can find yourself in that journey, you're going to have a lot more fun doing it, good, bad, or in between. That's probably the best thing I could say for most founders, because most give up because of how they feel, not because of where it's at. I saw it at New Chip a ton. You saw it at New Chip a ton. Just know where you are in the middle of it, and you'll figure it out. That's
fantastic advice. And for those who are interested in learning more about Emblem, how can they reach you, or how can they learn, or what website should they go to?
Well, if they go to my LinkedIn page, we have a calendar link for Emblem that's open now. And if you want to just get to know me, reach out. I'm here. I want to get to know people. I love talking to people, and I think myself pretty available for those who really want to get to know me. So, I mean, just know why you want to get to know me. Let me know beforehand, and I'll make sure that we have a great time.
Awesome, Luke. Really appreciate it. I'll make sure that all that information's in the show notes. Once your next product, launches, I'd love to have you back on again, and really appreciate your time today.
Gotcha. I should say that it's all within the same product. It's just features within the product.
Once you launch the new feature within the product. Awesome, sure. Luke. Really appreciate it. And thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for your time.